Okay, hi, my name is Rebecca. I'm doing another video today. I'm going to do two books. Another one of these books is one I've gotten from the library. After reading it, I'm calling it a must read. I actually want to own this now for my library. And that is Divination for Beginners by Scott Cunningham. This is a small book. It only spans, not including the bibliography and glossary, 209 pages. But it's a book that is jam-packed full of information. It's not only about tarot reading or crystal reading, it's about like every single form, I think, except for numerology. But every form of divination that you can find. Now this book, it actually was not written by Mr. Cunningham. As many of you know, he passed away March 28th in 1993. This book was published, first edition, in 2003 by the Scott Cunningham estate. So I'm assuming that's sort of like, if you're familiar with romance drama author V.C. Andrews, how she's deceased but her family runs an estate that continues to publish books. This is probably the same, but I'm assuming it's probably based on like earlier manuscripts and writings that he had. But getting into the book, he starts you off with basic history, why cultures have used divination, and he goes over some of the different stuff that different cultures have done. Now, one omission is the Egyptian culture and Pantheon, and that seems to be, according to the book, because of missing records. So you won't find that in here. That was one thing that kind of disappointed me. But since then, I think maybe we found more information. So if this was revised or a newer edition, it might include the Egyptian history as well. But he goes over that. He goes over the dangers of reading for yourself and for others. He talks a lot about being able to ground yourself and how to do a successful reading. That would be, I think, very useful for anybody who's beginning, or even for some people who have been reading for a while, because I know some people have problems reading for themselves. And I'm one of those people. I've had success, even if I do tarot mostly. That is my chosen art, but I've had readings where what I predicted to come to pass hasn't passed, and I know why. I understand why. We all have free will. We all make our free choices. The one key thing you need to understand, no matter what form of divination you're doing, is that nothing is set in stone. We're not puppets on a string. We all have our own minds, are capable of logical thought and making decisions. So if you're going in expecting to read your cards and find out if you're going to win the lottery tomorrow, or if 10 years from now you're going to be married with 2 kids, you're just not going to get that, and you're going to be greatly disappointed, frustrated, and probably give up. After history, he starts getting into some different chapters. He talks about timing, difficult times. Do you have to work magic to read, tarot or any other form of divination? And then he gets into this section I really like, which goes over the major cards of the tarot deck. And just as an illustration, I brought my Mythic Tarot to show you. The cards depict myths from Greek and Roman mythology. But, for example, the Fool, which is 0. If you were asking a simple question, it means none should be used immediately. Then we have the Magician, which means skill. The High Priestess, which is the unknown. And he goes through all 21 cards. If you're using decks that have alternate names, you kind of already have to know the I call it the Rider Waite system. You have to know the 21 names in the cards if you're using something else. I have other decks that have like priest and priestess, initiate. They use different terms, fairy, king, queen. So know your deck you're working with. But this is like for basic beginners with the Rider Waite deck. And then after that, he goes a little bit more into determining the time rates, how we change the future, and sometimes readings can spar us, subconsciously to make changes so that we can avoid things. Then we get into all the other different forms. First, he starts with water, different like water gazing, and then other forms like floating, using wells and ponds. There's some others. Then we get into fire, candles, ash, and smoke, which obviously this is a longer chapter because it's going over a little bit more. But I mean, there's a lot of useful stuff in here. Then after that, we get into wind, clouds and birds, plants and herbs. We get into stones, food like apples, stars, the moon, lightning. And then he has a section back here where he goes over in more detail the major cards from tarot. And then he goes into I Ching, which I have never studied I Ching myself. It's something I may look at studying in the future, but he gives you the basics here. And then the book goes into a dictionary of terms, unusual forms of divination, like rubbing boards and observing animals. And then we get into glossary and bibliography. Like I said, I got this from the library, so this is like a first edition. I actually am going to probably look myself into buying a second edition. I'm running about 7 minutes. As you know, my videos have a history of cutting off if I get longer than 6. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this video, and then I'll do a second video on the other book I wanted to talk about. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.